Welcome to episode 40 of the Blindsided podcast.
Ooh, 40.
Today, we're going to talk a little bit about fear and a little bit about faith, belief in self, belief in what we want to do, and how that can turn more into faith. Because if we base our decisions out of fear, well, we're going to learn what it means to be stuck and unhappy and blaming and complaining and eventually someday. Oh, I just hit a wire. I hope everything's okay. Oh, move the camera a little. And eventually we will look back and have some regret. We don't want that. So, hi, I'm Charlie Collins with the Blindsided podcast, co-host. And with me today is...
Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda Hayden. Charlie, your face is being cut off a little bit, so you might want to move your camera.
How about my face? I'll move that. It's easier.
Okay. I'm the founder of Time for a 10. We're an emotional awareness coaching service. We help people get to the root cause of the things that are disturbing them. We help them remove their conditioned thinking and deprogram the 0 to 7 program they get as a kid. And I also want to say I'm proud to be a guide on the Get Soul app. If you don't have Get Soul yet, you should get it. It's the #1 spiritual app being downloaded right now on Google and Apple. And I'm very proud to be a guide on that. And we have a great guest today, a fellow Columbia graduate student and a beautiful human being.
Hi, I'm Jenny, Rebecca, and I am the owner of Rebecca Spirit, which is a spiritual coaching company that I've been running for the past 15 years. And I, too, am a Columbia student and guide on Seoul, which is SOL, in case people are looking. It's not like Seoul, South Korea.
There's another saying for SOL. It has to do with out of luck. Let's give us some room so my head doesn't get cut off as easy. Brenda, and I gotta say that this is a discussion-based podcast, and I don't have bullet points and all, but when you said in there, hey, you want to move your camera because your head is cut off. So my fear of doing these podcasts and doing it wrong and making mistakes used to drive me to just not do anything, because I know now, moving forward in life, I believe it's possible. I believe in myself. I can learn something that I put my mind and effort, and where my attention goes, my energy flows, all that. And I just hit the wire again. Anyway, but when you said that would have cropped up a good amount of fear, and then saying, see, you're dead. I would have that language of stuff. And instead, just move a little and course correct, because if I allow fear to dominate not only my decisions and choices throughout my day, but then I told you so's, I'm in big trouble.
Really big trouble. And I had an experience recently. I'm really glad we're doing a podcast on fear. I had an experience recently where I had to give a presentation in class, and I had this lingering subconscious fear of speaking in front of a group because of a traumatic experience I had in kindergarten. I think we may have talked about this on this podcast before. And now I'm doing some energy work to get rid of that, because it really interferes with my ability to be confident and to stand in my power when I'm presenting in front of a group on material that I'm fluent in, that I really know. And so fear can really rob you of so much. Jenny was there for that experience, by the way, when I'm talking about the one I had recently.
Now, because my Wi-Fi is wonky, because Mercury is in retrograde. So there you go. But you did a great job, though, Brenda, a couple weeks ago in class. I thought it was great. And, I think you just have to you just have to go through it. So right now I'm just going through it and checking my Wi-Fi and redoing all of those things. But yeah, it can be very scary, Yeah, this is scary now.
Especially doing it in the moment when you're actually live streaming and we're not pre-recording, Nick. So anyway, when I was going through looking at this and thinking about it, I have stuff all over. I was just thinking, gosh, the dichotomy, the difference. I remember self that based his decisions, didn't know, thought that's the way it was, but my decisions, choices, how I behaved were coming from a deep-rooted fear that started way when I was younger. And I planted the seed, and then throughout my life it germinated, and it took charge of most parts of my life. But my actions, my thought process, and how I would think about moving forward was always halted. It was always this crippling, yeah. Where did that thought come from? You don't have enough school. You don't have enough brain power. You're not good enough. You don't know how to do it. And because of those things, I didn't have faith. I didn't even have a belief that it was possible, or a belief in myself.
Mm. You said something important there, Charlie, that it started, you had a belief system, right? There was a belief system that you're running off of. And I believe that belief system that runs in our subconscious brain, I'm a big 0 to 7 programming person, a Bruce Lipton, epigenetics, all that, really drives that foundational response to fear. So, I grew up in an environment where it just wasn't safe. So from a very young age, I was looking for ways to stay safe. And what I did is I learned through that experience, I found ways to stay safe. And a lot of times the ways to stay safe, like overachieving, doing really well in school, doing exactly what I was told, people pleasing, all of those little tools that I picked up to make the world a safe place, really is how I was medicating the fear until that stopped working, right? Because it only works for so long. And then the fear got to be so great that I turned to other things, drugs and alcohol, workaholism, anything to distract myself from feeling it. And so the work that I started to do, and you've done some of the same work, is to go in and go all the way back and re-experience some of those fears in the present day as an adult, not as right? Because when you're a child, you don't have a frontal lobe to process things, right? So it's kind of like I believe what's in front of me and I never really go back and look at it. Well, if I take the time to go back and look at it and say, wait a minute, the story I'm telling myself about this fear is just that, it's a story. And then I can reframe it in a different way. And some of that old energy starts to rise, to be released. And then I'm not as afraid, like just getting up and doing the presentation, even though I wanted to crawl under the chair and not do it at all, right? Just like plow through it and do it anyway, like Jenny was just saying. And then the more I do that, the less fear I have about doing it the next time. Not easy, but.
No, it's not easy. It's it's the big thing, right? That's our monkey brain popping in, telling us being afraid is important. It's safety. It's what you need to do in order to survive. And so we come into the world with that a bit in our DNA, right? And so overcoming that after then being hit by outside forces telling us that we should be afraid or we're doing something wrong, or whatever we are creating for ourselves sometimes, is really hard to get over because we're fighting against our actual nature of doing something. And so it's difficult. But having faith, finding faith in whatever it is that you find faith in, gives you the ability to rewrite those stories. So, and I think when people talk to me or I have clients, I tell them I live by radical faith. And I just free ball through the universe. Like whatever they tell me to do, I'm just doing it. It makes no sense, but okay, I'm going to do it. I just do what I'm told. I just do whatever it is that the universe, that spirit tells me to do. I just do it, and I have to have radical faith that it's going to work out because that's what I'm being told to do. And it always does. 100% every single time it has worked when I've listened. It's when I don't listen to the outside forces of my faith is built on that things get screwy.
Mm-hmm. I recently got a rescue dog, and I've been learning, but a frontal lobe of the dog is about 7%. where, they do have a bit of decision making and a little self-will, but mostly instinct. That's how a dog, I mean, a cat's 1.5, just saying. uh, but humans are 30 to 40%. And that's where we can engage into self-will running riot, or self-will aligning with the will of the path we're supposed to be on. And that's also where we can make decisions and then move towards faith, or even just open the door of willingness. I used to say in my store, let me go back to the dog. Sorry, I'm a little all over, and I'm watching him. And if a bird flies low, a squirrel or a bunny, he's springing to go. I have to have this. And when I would talk to him or say, don't, nothing. I don't even exist. He is full. He's not even, fight or flight. He is so activated. His system has completely locked in, and he has to go get that. So I'm like, great. It's called prey drive. And I'm like, so he can't just, well, I know Charlie doesn't like when I chase squirrels because it runs out and it hurts his shoulder and he gets angry. So I'm going to not go ahead and do it this time. No, he doesn't have that system built in. Then afterwards, I can break that intense grab on him when he falls and when his nervous system takes over and he goes into instinctual mode and wants to go. And we've been working on it and forming a way to work around that. And because I've read, I don't know how to do this. I've never had a dog. I had Goldens. They don't have problems. Well, they do, but they're simple. This guy has issues. He's like a person. But I started reading. I don't know how. But I have faith that if I take the right steps and I nurture and work, we will form a system and an approach where he can enjoy going on walks without always being activated like a little addict going, freaking out everywhere he goes, and he's getting better.
That's great, Charlie. Congratulations on the new dog. Happy for you. Charlie recently lost his dog, so it's really nice that he's got another one. I want to say good morning to Cassidy, Carrie. Hi, Nick, and Trish is on. We're great to see you chatting away in the chat. Glad to have you. And, so Charlie, what you're doing is you're bringing some awareness into the dog's, energy field about, right. So it starts with awareness. It starts by noticing when you're afraid. A lot of times it's so automatic. It just, you're just running, you're just going, you're just, doing your day to day. You're not even realizing that there's some fear going on. And Jenny and I were recently in a somatics class that was just incredible at teaching us how to tune into our bodies. We learned, that our bodies we all know that our energy field goes out, or maybe people don't know. I shouldn't say that. What about 8 feet, I would think, Jenny, right? Between 8 and 9 feet. And we have neurons in our heart, and we learned we have 100 million neurons in our gut. That's, our body's a giant antenna, So if we start paying attention to our body, we can get signals from our body that fear is starting to ensue. So that's one way that you can start learning about, when am I even in fear? And I really liked what Jenny said about paying attention to what the universe is laying out in front of you, because you could feel that. There's a knowing, there's an intuition, the 100 million neurons, right? It's in your gut for a reason. That's your intuition, your solar plexus there. When you're choosing for your highest good or not, you feel it. If you have to ask yourself twice about moving forward, you're questioning the first one, right? You're asking a second time because you don't want to do the first thing that's coming forward. And it's usually the first thing that's coming forward that is the right thing for me to do anyway, because it's coming from my gut. It's when I let it travel up here and get into this little tight box, this thing where nothing good happens. That's when the fear starts to ensue, when I start analyzing it and questioning the next right move. And what are people going to think of me? Right. That all that stuff starts to play. And that's when, I really start to get afraid, is when I I get away from the intuition, which is how the universe speaks to us, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. And I start getting up here saying, what if, and I'll be happy when, and maybe that's not a good, right? So I don't know.
You do know. You just said it.
Yeah.
You do know. The other thing I think people don't realize is how fear crops up, and we don't understand the real impacts of it, and sometimes we're afraid to succeed, and so we're good at being mediocre, right? And it's because someone else is going to expect us to do it. And I think that's another piece to the fear factor, as it were, that, well, now what do I do? Right? Like going to teachers college. Okay, that's really great. But now what are people going to expect of me? Now what am I supposed to do? How do I top this thing? And I don't think we should live our lives that way, because then we're always looking to top ourselves. And that creates a fear, because then again, right, you're afraid of failure, and you're afraid that you're not going to be able to show up in the way that you are. And if you're just your authentic self, you win.
Mm.
Yeah. Fear, I've learned well, let me go back. Let me just start with faith. I got to put my faith and trust in something. I have put it in me for years without the knowledge or the awareness that I'm the one who's creating my life, my suffering, my stuck to itness of struggle and blaming and wondering why it's so hard. And then I attach it to my eye disease and my legal blindness. And that's why and I just form beautiful stories to help keep me stuck. So, and I don't know, nobody's snapping me out of it, but finally I realized, and with a guide, with a coach, with a system, with 12 steps, with the Bible, with books I've read, things I completely put my trust in the person. I love the way they are, the way they live their life, how they talk about how they came from where they were to where they are now. And it was, it wasn't how much money they made, it was the transformation. And the information they provided helped a revelation, aha moments, which then moved me into transformation. And we're talking about that. And it's that awareness. Oh, I'm about to not do something that I had the inner prompting to do, but the old me, the lower self, says you might look silly. You might not make a lot. You might not sound good. They might not like you. And it's like, but is that why I'm doing it? No. So it was evil corroding this fancied thought process that 99% of it was all made up in my mind. It never would have materialized. And a lot of things in life I didn't do because I didn't want to know what the outcome was going to be, because I already visioned it was not going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Same here, Charlie. So we learned in the 12 steps that fear is false evidence appearing real. And when I work with clients and we're talking about fear, and it's very difficult to do that for myself, but I can do it for other people, and they talk about a fear, I literally stop the conversation and say, let's look at the evidence. So let's talk about some times in the past where what you're afraid of, this outcome or this it happening a certain way, has happened. And probably, I want to say about 8 out of 10 times, there's no evidence to support the fear. Like they have no evidence to support the fear. It's all fancied. And I was guilty of that too, right? It being fancied. And Jenny, if you haven't seen her TikTok page, it's great. She posted a video this week and she goes, guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And that was one of the biggest tools that came into my awareness to use when some of the false evidence appearing real pops up. First of all, I'm not that powerful. What other people think of me, they're not thinking of me. That's the truth. They're not. They're just not. Like nobody in that classroom when I was doing that presentation was saying, oh, I wonder what Brenda's going to say. Or when I sat down, had any thoughts of, lingering thoughts about how terrible it was. I'm just not that important. I'm not that important. Nobody cares. And when I started thinking about that, and we've talked on this podcast before, And I did a little video on it, that who am I thinking about 98% of the time? Myself. So who are you thinking about 98% of the time? Yourself. I'm not thinking about you and you're not thinking about me. And that was where 99% of my fears came from. What other people are going to think of me. And I loved that video that Jody did that said, hey, nobody cares. Love it. Love it. Love it.
They don't. And anybody who the saying I love the best is those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
I love that. Say that again. Say that again.
Those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind. I'm not going to convince anybody to like me that doesn't like me, and it's not my job. You either like me or you don't. Love me or leave me alone. Like and part of that really does resonate with my faith that I'm going to get the people and the things that I need to move forward in my life, or to have a life that is comfortable for me. It may not be the big dream life that I wanted, but maybe it is. It's a different dream, right? And so I love saying that people don't care. No one cares. They don't care. And for faith, for me, I've changed faith systems times than I've changed my hair color. And right now my faith is very based in just a spiritual universal energy. And that has really worked for me in this point in my life. And I think that's the other thing that people really need to look at or think about is, where is your faith, and is your faith helping you what you need to feel supported, to feel good, to not feel afraid. And if not, maybe you do change. Maybe, everybody moves in different ways, right? We start off in kindergarten, we learn how to, cut with baby scissors, and then we move up to bigger scissors, and then to saws. I don't know where I'm going with that, but you grow, you change things.
Yeah, that's right. I had a resentment on those old scissors. So we evolve, and for those listening and all, I think the bottom line is, it's not the bottom; it's just a line, because who knows who the bottom line is. But anyway, it's that, am I basing my decisions or my choices, and when I choose, I then behave. I take an action, or I release some thoughts, I release some chemicals in my brain. So am I aware that I'm doing this throughout the day? Do I notice when fear crops up? Do I notice? Because we get very much into our comfort zones. And why? So we can keep fear at bay. So we don't, just gonna. But when we start stepping out of our familiar comfort zone, I mean, heck, getting a sponsor was a big one. But anyway, when we start doing that, that years of fear-based living starts really cropping up. But with some belief and faith and challenge, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to ask for help. Big one for me. I wouldn't do that. And I'm actually even better. I'm going to say, I don't know. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure how to handle that. It's like, I couldn't have done that in the past, So I think my faith is belief in self, belief that whatever the universe is saying, giving me those inner promptings. Hey, dude, do this. Go out and become a speaker, please. Tell me another lie. But that happened.
So I'm going to read a couple of the chats here, Charlie. Trish is saying, oh, I think I know the bottom line, Charlie. LOL. And yeah. We have several people liking the fears, false evidence appearing real. Nick's got some exclamation points there too. And that's about it. That's about it.
Brenda, the other fear that I learned was F everything and run.
Yes.
That's how I reacted to fear. F as in, that swear word, everything, and run. And
Mm.
what I was running away from, I was running into because I was the generation of fear. It wasn't outside of me.
Yeah. Yeah. We make it. We create our reality. This we know. And I like that you guys are talking about the evolution of our faith. I mean, my dad was seduced out of the seminary by my mother. So you can imagine what kind of guilt and shame, these are Catholics, right? What kind of guilt and shame was going on in my house as a little kid. But we were raised with this to be afraid of God, a higher power, whatever it is. It was this big thing out there that was watching our every move, and if we did certain things wrong, we weren't going to go to heaven. I mean, it was really that black and white. My mother had 6 pregnancies in 4 years, 2 miscarriages, and my little sister and I, excuse me, are 10 months and 1 day apart. I was born January 3rd. She was born November 4th in the same year, because it was a sin to use birth control back then. It was a mortal sin. You would not get into heaven if you were using birth control, right? So, I mean, and look at where it is today. I mean, so I was raised in that environment. And then, my idea of faith and God, source, universe today is just that. Call it whatever you want. God, source, universe, Christ consciousness. I don't believe it's one. I think it's just a collective energy, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. But it's not like I'm one with it. I'm one with it. It's not this hierarchy that it's not an authority figure that I'm reporting to. That generates a lot of fear. It's faith, like we were talking about, in the energy system that's around me, that talks to me all the time. The synchronicities tell me it's there. I can't tell you how much synchronicity happens in my life with just repeating numbers and license plates and things happening. I could go on and on about that. Got a tarot reading yesterday, for example, and I have 2 friends, Lisa and Leanda, and we're trying to build a camp for kids to teach kids how to not forget the gifts they're born with, which is their clairaudience, their clairvoyance, the energy field within them. And the woman pulled a final card that was an oracle card, and she held it up, and it was, I kid you not, it was an African-American woman, which was Leanda, a brown-haired woman, which my hair color is naturally brown, and my friend Lisa has black hair. And the 3 of us were holding hands. It was the 3 of us on the card. Like, that's the energy system that is my faith system today. Is that kind of stuff happens all the time when I'm flowing, like Jenny was saying, when I'm flowing with whatever is put in front of me, not when I'm trying to squeeze out of this box, but whatever is put in front of me. And it is given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, that kind of faith. Because it oh my gosh, I don't want to start to cry on a live podcast, so I'm going to move on.
Oh, no crying. Yes. And I think for me, having that faith is what keeps me balanced and keeps me happy, because I know that it's going to be okay. I have a firm belief that it's going to be okay, whatever it looks like. And it might feel not okay in the moment, but it will work and it will be okay, is what also then reconfirms for me what it is that I'm doing. Like what I said to you, I don't know how many people know this, but TikTok is supposed to be banned in January. And I had just, like Brenda started it, and I finally got to be part of the live uh, part of the app. I can do lives, and now it's going to be banned. And I'm like, are you guys serious right now? And I had to really lean in, and I got sad. I got sad at first, and I was like, all right, this is terrible. Okay. And then I started to think about it, and my faith kicked in, and it said, "We're this was your test run. You're going to be okay. This was the baseline of where we wanted you to start to get comfortable, and we're going to keep moving you up, and it's okay.
Mm.
It's okay."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't have TikTok, so if it gets banned, it won't make any difference to me. I know Brenda's been on me. You need to start that. I just watched the clock tick tock. And as we know, social media can produce a lot of great things in life. It can help with faith. It can help move you in a direction, but I don't. It does more on the fear side. But that's neither here nor there. So, Brenda, what was your song? I'm not thinking of you, and you're not thinking of me.
Yeah.
Or was it, I'm thinking of me and you're thinking of you, so go away. So, but when you said that, I'm like, that's a great song. You could, write a nice song to that, because I also remember that going into places where people were and being afraid to walk across the room to find a chair because of the fear of everybody watching the way I walk, what I was wearing. And I'm like, God, what happened to me? How did I get so paralyzed by this thought process? I mean, I didn't know. I thought it was just life. I thought it was, you got to deal with this type of stuff, that bondage of self. And then I realized, as I did the work and many forms of work, and then started building more faith and trust and reliance, and moving from understanding to experience. Oh my gosh, what a tough way to live. And you said it, it's like a life. It's like a moment. It's a walk with the dog. I still have freakouts. I was freaking out when my system wasn't working. Not really freaking out, but I was like, I got mad at the garbage can and I knocked it out of the way, and there were orange peels in it and they went all over the floor. So I'm like, oh, of course, this kind of happens when I'm in a getting home. Yeah. Good thing the damn was the camera on? Because that would have been a heck of a podcast.
No, it was not.
Phew. But anyway, again, this is we said evil and corroding. We said crippling, paralyzes, keeps us stuck, drives us into a comfort zone that isn't serving us or anybody around us. You want to Susie Jeffers, whatever that book is, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Sure. But you want to really, really, really start dominating fear, go be of service. Go help somebody. There's somebody way more afraid than you are. There's somebody who's way more stuck than you are. And you can just go be present. And all of a sudden, fear is no longer gripping on us, because this connection and service, and I want to be of help to somebody, dominates, and it helps move me away from self.
Absolutely. Charlie, as you're saying that, and what was coming into my awareness as we were talking is separation sickness. And I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from, is that, from the time that we're young, or at least in my case, from the time I was young, I was taught to be separate from the person next to me. I have to be better than, right? It's like survival of the fittest. I have to be smarter than, I have to do these certain things. I have to be complicit. I have to participate in the way that society expects me to, in the consume and produce matrix that I'm in, right? All of these things are laid out. And I am taught from a very young age, that 0 to 7 programming, that I am separate from the person next to me, that I am competing with the person next to me, that it is not okay to just be. And if being is what society measures as mediocre, that's not okay. But it is. I did an experiment. I mentioned it on a podcast last semester, because I was so focused on my grades, right? Focus, where I skipped a day of school. I skipped class and I skipped a day of school. I didn't do the homework, and it was like, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Zero happened, right? Nothing. And this was like such a big deal for me to I got to go get class. I got to be on time. I got to have it right. Spinning, because it wouldn't be okay just to be, just to roll, just to not get an A or not show up for class or be late for something. And it was like, it's all freaking, I created it all, But the separation sickness, I think, is a big part of where fear comes from. We are all connected. We're all connected. We're not separate.
Well, just stay connected to me, Brenda, because I'm always late. And you were freaking out when we were late to class. And I was like, it's fine. Sure, no worries. We'll get there. And we did.
And nobody cared, Jen.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody. They just kind of moved their stuff, and that's it. So you can stay connected to me. I'm gonna be late to my own funeral, which makes my kid happy. But yeah, you know.
You know what really frightened me though, Jen, was driving with you in New York
Oh
City.
yes,
Oh my
that takes
God.
faith. That
So
takes
that's
faith.
like a
Yeah,
real fear.
yeah. That was faith right there, my friends. Yeah.
Oh, she's got this cute little Range Rover and she's honking and yelling and weaving in and out. And I'm like,
You want some real fare? Let me drive in New York City.
oh.
It's got to be a Humvee, though. So we and I got some kickback on the faith, and it's like, what happens if you don't have faith in God? I said, I don't know. Why? I mean, but is this going to be all about God and Jesus Christ? And no. It's your own conception, what you put your trust and reliance in. And again, mine did not start in a universal power. It started in directions in a book that I saw several people that were living a life beyond my wildest dreams. They were freed from the bondage of self. They were happy, joyous, and free. They were smiling. They weren't high. They were enjoying a cookie. And I'm like, well, I want that, but it's not possible for me because I've tried everything. Well, no, you haven't. You have tried everything that you've come up with. Why don't you allow yourself to give of yourself to a simple program that is laid right at your feet and wake up the spiritual giant that is just screaming inside of you that wants to help you lead a life beyond your wildest dreams. So my beginning, the door of willingness that opened was in a process, was in a system, was in directions. It wasn't in God of my misunderstanding or understanding. It was that. And as Jenny said earlier, and over the years, it changes. But the bottom line is I keep seeking how can I, what inner prompting, what is this I'm receiving today? Is it something I need to discard, or do I give it some attention, or do I just move through the day and see where it goes? And that's where I am now, I think. And then I take over and I shove down the inner prompting. I don't make that phone call. I get pissed that I didn't get an email back. My camera stuff's pissing me off. And I realize, oh, Charlie's back.
Yeah. Yeah. The circumstances of life can really interfere with having faith, just the circumstances of life. And so you said two things that really resonated with me. It's
Only two? Good thing I'm not afraid.
And it's, you know, the life beyond your wildest dreams. And so how do we start? By being willing, by being willing to see things differently. By, you know, the most important thing for me, because I was living up here in that little small space, was being willing to accept that I'm wrong, that I may have gotten it wrong, you know, and from there, all kinds of beautiful things can happen. I could be wrong about the way I'm looking at this, right? So being willing and then seeking, like the constant seeking is how I've evolved. Like, because fear will say, oh, this is going to work for you. Stick with this. You found something, now stop, stick with it. And that's been the biggest change in probably the last 5 to 7 years of my life. I don't stick with it. I keep going. I use that as a stepping stone to the next place. I posted a video not too long ago, like a little thing that says, take the first step and the stairs will just appear. And that's exactly how I've evolved in the last 5 to 7 years, is just keep taking the next first step. And the stairs, they do just appear. They really do.
Yeah, they do. And that's the hard part. I was at TC this summer helping out with their intensive, and they had speakers come in, and they were talking about having radical faith. And I was just so enamored. And so I actually follow her on Instagram, and her name is Yael Trush, and her husband talk about having faith and just going and doing it, not worrying about it, and how for other people that's really scary, but for them they're like, nah, it'll work. And one of the things that they said when they first came out was, would you get on the shoulders of someone who was walking a tightrope across buildings in New York City? And everybody, of course, all of the new BTC kids are like, no way. And I'm like, yep. If I was told that's what I got to do, I'm hopping on, buddy. Let's go. And they lived that life. And to, again, when you say you watch what you were saying about when you watch other people and how their life is working for them, and that, well, maybe I can do that.
Mm.
Maybe I'll try that. And then you do, and the stairs appear, and you do, and more stairs appear. And then you get into a crazy person's car and it all works out.
I think when is when each thing kind of delivers you into the next thing. And we know when we're in fears, we take an action and we hit a wall, a harder wall, or we drop into excuses and blaming, complaining, or we point fingers, or we say, I knew I shouldn't have gone that way anyway. But then when it's faith based uh, belief, and we step into, even though it maybe doesn't feel warm and fuzzy, but something is pushing us, each step, each stair kind of delivers us to the next one. We're in the right channel, in the right lane of life, I believe, because that's certainly what's happening to me as I continue to break through. I went to Jack Canfield's thing in 2008, Breakthrough to Success. And obviously, a lot of it was based around fear. And I'm thinking, how does he know about this? Oh, I lived a sheltered mind life. And, but, this has been really good because both of you are opening my channels up to notice. And I think it's like that aha moment. Information that leads to a revelation helps with transformation. And that's what it's like. Gosh, when I'm moving, if it feels great when I'm moving forward, great. But if it gets a little sticky, or maybe I got to ask for help, or I got a question, or I got to do something, but just keep allowing, I will find that I will grow. Each step will bring me to the next step. I have experience with that. Don't you, Brenda?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. Just moving forward with whatever's next. It was, the thing that helps me the most, and what we've learned is just looking back at where I was like 10 years ago to where I am now. And the reason why I'm in such a better place is because I made a decision in moment after moment after moment not to be afraid, to do what was in front of me and not to be afraid. And that's not to say that that's how it always is. Clearly, I still deal with fear, but I have tools now to deal with it. Like even asking myself, where's the evidence that there's anything to be afraid of? Just, is it even true, the story I'm telling myself? We talk about this a lot, to pause and say, is it even true?
Right.
What I'm saying I'm afraid of, is it based in reality? And it usually isn't.
Yeah, I tell my clients that all the time. What's the truth and what's the reality? What's the truth and what's the reality? And they can be different and they can coexist, but look at it and see, is that person really mad at you, or did they have a bad day? The truth is you felt that they were mad at you, but they had a bad day. And when you start to live within the outline of the four agreements, that helps your faith, right? Because it's not about me. I'm not making the assumption that this is what's happening. Right? And so I think that also helps you, like you were saying, build your faith when you look back and you say, okay, you know what? Yeah, that's right. It wasn't about me then. It's not about me now. This is what's happening around me, and how do I control that? And once I think that's the other key for me is I've learned to control it in a different way. So the fear doesn't control me, I control the situation.
Mm. And I think this is also, I'm going to get there. You'll see. All right. So I'm looking at the slide is I can have all the faith, but if I have a little bit of fear, I don't believe that I can base the right decision. Brenda, you said I based my decisions and towards obviously not about how much money in the bank. And, I learned early on that basing my decisions out of self, like self success, self financial income, self material, and that self that, see, I'm seeking to fill something that I'm missing. And I did that model and I did well, but it wasn't sustaining. And I always had this one rock, this whatever that balance thing is. I was doing many things right, but I had this void, this problem inside of me that it was the utter faith that, like you were just talking about, that radical, like, hey, this has happened to me. No, this has happened for me to help move me out of self and back in the direction that a higher power, the universe, or my higher calling really is demanding of me. And I want to see that on a daily basis.
Mm. Yep. So what do you want to close with, Charlie? I want to close with stay in the present moment. Don't bring your past fears, your past experiences, your 0 to 7 programming into today, because it only ends up in today when we bring it. That's the only time it comes in, is when we bring it into today. So that's going to be my motto for today. Stay in the present moment.
Oh, you, Jenny?
Oh, my motto for today, nobody cares. Just do you. Do you and be happy.
And then, of course, we'll end with Brenda's song. I'm not thinking of you. You're not thinking of me. And we'll see you next Saturday. We have a special guest who's coming in, and we're going to talk about some alarming numbers on the health and wellness side of our journey.
Yay.
So thank you. And we will see you next week. Jenny, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.